Welcome to Drunkish Kate. I'm so excited. We were talking before I hit record because I don't know, I feel like we have like friendship chemistry.
Well, I'm 100%. Well, we've been Facebook friends for years, for like, I don't
Yes,
even know how long. And yes, I 100% agree.
because we
I agree.
have a mutual friend, our friend Robin, and
Mhm.
she was like, "You should have Kate on my other podcast, which is for crying out loud, because you're a divorce coach."
Mhm.
And we thought that would be very fitting we have a lot of married ladies or divorced ladies or going through divorced women on
Mhm.
my other podcast for crying out loud. So
Mhm.
you came on and it was a great interview and I think really helped my other podcast host Lynette,
Yeah, I think so.
who
Well, it
was
just
going
seemed
through a
like it.
divorce.
She was going through it. Like, when you're going through it, you're like, there was a lot, let's say, that she could relate to in the stuff I was talking about. So, yeah.
Yes. So
Hmm.
as I already said in the intro though, you have a very popular podcast which is the divorce. I have the Divorce Survival Guide is your podcast, and you've also written a book called The D Word, Making the Ultimate Decision About Your Marriage. Um, but you're also 7 years sober.
I am almost
Oh,
seven
almost
in, I
seven?
guess, like in November. Yeah, mid-November it'll be 7.
Oh,
Hmm.
okay. So, God
Yep.
willing,
Well, yeah,
hope this doesn't
I
make you drink.
really, yeah.
Like,
I
thanks,
have
Stephanie.
zero desire to drink. Zero. So, yeah, zero. And I rarely do. Once I stopped, I mean, well, it took a while for me to get there, but I really have never looked back. I really have never looked back.
So tell me a little bit about your drinking. Did it
Hmm.
start young and then get
Oh
bad
no.
later? No,
No.
tell me
So
everything.
I'm not like your typical alcoholic. I've never identified as an alcoholic. I grew up with an alcoholic dad, of course, surrounded by alcoholics. So I was always in the other program. And I went to a bazillion AA meetings. My dad got sober when I was 18. So I started going to AA meetings when I was pretty young to sort of see what all this was about. Then my best friend got sober. Then my other best friend got sober, right? So I've always been surrounded by alcoholics. And I knew that, like, I just never related to the AA version of I'm an alcoholic, right? And I was never a drinker. Like, my alcoholic friends would always say, and I call them alcoholics because they identify as alcoholics, but just to be clear, um, they always will say to me, they would say, you were so annoying at parties because you would hold one beer for like 6 hours, and we were like, what the fuck is she doing? Why isn't she drinking that beer, right? Because they were obsessed with it, right? And
Oh
so,
yeah, I feel for them.
yeah. You would have done the same thing. You would have been like, why is she
Yeah.
holding that beer? Well, I
Uh,
don't understand. I got there later, but I was never a drinker. Um, and then,
And can I just ask you can I just
yeah,
dig a tiny bit deeper? But your
totally.
dad was an alcoholic while you were growing up and then got sober.
Hmm.
So was there, and I hear this a lot, was there kind of a fear of like, oh, I don't want to drink like
No,
that? No? Okay.
no, because what's funny is that my dad's drug use was more in the forefront, right? So to me, I didn't even, when he was like, I got sober, I was like, huh? Because I never saw alcohol as being the problem. I thought cocaine was the problem. I thought marijuana was the problem. But then I was like, oh, right. Every single time I see you, we're in a bar. Like, I was going to bars when I was 8 years old, spending a whole weekend in New York City Tribeca bars, like grungy seedy bars. That's how I grew up. I always say I grew up in like a Wes Anderson movie on my mom's side and After Hours on my dad's side.
Wow, that's a good description.
So, um, so yeah, it wasn't. I never touched cocaine ever because of my dad, and I like really didn't like weed because of my dad. But booze, I was like, that I didn't identify that as kind of being a problem for him. Yeah. Or for me, really, as a child. I did identify weed and cocaine as problems with my relationship with my dad. Uh, so so yeah, it wasn't an avoidant thing. It wasn't like, oh God, I got to be careful, or I don't like this. It was literally like, this is gross. This stuff doesn't taste good.
It really
Um,
doesn't.
I know it really objectively doesn't, right? Um, like if anything, like I think Annie Gray says, like if anything is an acquired taste, like probably it doesn't taste good. Right? It's probably gross.
Right, right.
Um, so and then, when I married my ex-husband, he was sober. He was a sober alcoholic. I mean, like, ding, ding, ding. He was sober. We were 28 when we met. He was already 8 years sober. And that's when I started my Al-Anon journey. Like went in because I was like, everyone around me is an alcoholic. Maybe I should do something about this. Um, and so I did, and I dug really deeply into that program and spent a long time working like a serious like black belt Al-Anon program. Which I know I'm not supposed to say, but I also like I'm not actively in Al-Anon anymore, so I can identify that for myself.
I
I
always feel
know.
like with anonymity, it's about mentioning other people being in there. It's not like you're
But
allowed to
we're
say we're
anonymous at the
not
level of press, radio, TV, and film,
right,
right?
but
So
we're
like
not
from the
actively
traditions.
recruiting.
No, 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 absolutely not. But
We're
just
s-
from
we're
I
s-
want to honor the traditions,
yes,
which is that we're
right.
not supposed to. But
Right, but we're
and
still
yeah,
attraction, not promotion. You're not we're not
right,
here speaking for any program. I make that pretty
absolutely,
clear.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
People if they want to get sober, they can do there's a lot of ways to do it.
Yeah, and I'm going to talk about that because I
Yeah,
didn't do it the traditional
sure.
AA way, right? So yes, I'm glad you said that. I mean it's true. I just like to be mindful of like so anyway, yeah, I went into Al-Anon when I was like 28 and I had like an incredible double winner sponsor who was like just I mean, I would call her and I would be blah, 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 and she'd be like, "Great, what step are you on?"
For
You know.
anybody that doesn't know what a double winner is, that
Oh.
is somebody who identifies as an alcoholic and has an alcoholic in their life that they're trying to deal with.
Yes. So somebody who's, Al-Anon and right, exactly. And they often say, I don't know how much you go into this, Stephanie, but they often say that Al-Anon is graduate school for alcoholics because it's the relationship program, right? And it's like once the booze is gone, then we got to deal with all this other shit. And so yeah, so she was amazing. Amanda was amazing. She was like, really, I mean, I was deep in there for like a good 10 to 15 years. Um, and then I was married to a sober alcoholic, so I never drank. Like I did not drink when I was married because and we would have the same thing where we would go out to dinner and I'd order a glass of wine and it would sit there and he'd be like, "Are you gonna drink that?"
Again,
I'm
kind of
like,
siding with him.
yeah, exactly. He's like, what are you doing? He's like, could you please chug it? Just make me feel better and chug it. Not that he cared about it being on the table. He was just like, I don't understand.
But can I ask you a question?
Mhm.
Like, what made you feel like you have to work really hard at an Al-Anon program if he was sober the whole time? You met him, he was sober.
It's a great question. I mean, I think, um, oh dear. There were so many things. He was sober and he was also emotionally abusive. And I think a lot of my Al-Anon journey was trying to um, fix myself because he was telling me that there were all these things wrong with me, right? And I considered him more evolved because he's been working a program for 8 years already. And I remember having this feeling like he'll always be 8 years ahead of me in growth and development, which is so um, what a sad thing to think, right? And he certainly didn't sort of disavow me of that belief, right? I think he very much enjoyed that he. So there was always this like, well, and also, by the way, Al-Anon is not just for dealing with the alcoholic. Al-Anon is for dealing with yourself because I developed all of my coping mechanisms, my relationship skills in the context of alcoholism and also my mother being an untreated Al-Anon, right? So we develop a lot of character traits and behaviors that have nothing to do with the alcoholic, sober or not, that you're living with. I mean, they are, sort of the I'm so articulate today, Stefanie. One of the key sort of character traits, right, is control. Because for people who were raised in an alcoholic home, now I was not raised in an alcoholic home because my dad was not there. Um, but is this sort of this control, you're trying to control everything because when you grow up in an alcoholic home, there's a lot of chaos. And you don't know what, there's counting drinks, you don't know who's going to walk in the door. So you're constantly trying to, backpedal, or you're walking on eggshells, right? And so you develop all these character traits all by yourself that have nothing to do with anyone else in your life. And so my journey in Al-Anon was really about undoing all of that and not being so controlling and not believing that my okayness had anything to do with the alcoholic or anyone else in my life. Learning to become okay just by myself. And so if somebody did something or didn't do something or drank or didn't drink or was mean to me or cheated on me, like I was okay. Because before that, I was not okay on any level, right? Because unless you were okay, unless you told me I was okay, I had no sense of self. So, so it didn't even matter that he was sober, right? It was that I had all of this stuff. And he did not treat me well. And I didn't have enough of a sense of self to say, that's not okay. Actually, and I choose to leave, right? And one of the issues that I had in Al-Anon is that like there's a lot of like it's okay to love an alcoholic, which of course it is. Um, but it made me feel, or I took it to mean that, you know, I kind of had to stay. Like there was a way to work through all of these things. Um, it didn't give me the sense that like, well, there's alcoholism and then there's asshole, right? There's alcoholism and there are sure maybe character traits and defects and all of those things. But then there's also emotional abuse, which is something completely different from the alcoholism. And I was never really able to discern those things.
You've said, and this is sort of off topic here, but I think it's relevant because in a clip of you on a different podcast, you were talking
Hmm.
about couples therapy
Yeah,
not being appropriate for actual abuse because
exactly.
that's the other person's issue.
That's
They
right.
need therapy. But this is a thing, I think, especially with women, is no matter what's happening, we feel like, let me just try to fix myself. Let me try to improve.
Exactly. Exactly. Yes, 100%. And when you're in an abusive relationship, you're constantly being told that you're the problem and that any problem that you have is just because, well, if you would just, and the goalpost is constantly moving, but you're aiming for it. It doesn't matter. Like, oh, okay, I'm gonna modulate my voice this way and I'm gonna talk in this way and I'm gonna, rush up to you when you come into a party because that's what you want. And I'm gonna be more effusive because that's what'll make you feel better. But oh, now I'm being inauthentic. Okay, wait, I'll do it this way. Right. And it's fucking crazy making.
Right.
It's crazy making. And it's not that's not the problem, right? The problem is that this person is doesn't love you, right? I was constantly trying to get him to love me. Please love me. Please see me for who I am. Don't you see me? And then, but then I saw myself less and less and less and less. And then I was this empty shell of a person. Um, but we are taught, women in particular, right? Like, well, let's do this work. I mean, like something like 75% of personal development work is consumed by women. Um, except for the like bro productivity hacking and biohacking and whatever, which really has nothing to do with relational anything,
That has to do with
right?
making money.
It has to do with making money and like optimizing your body to stay around longer to like continue to be dominant, right?
Yes, yes, yes.
Ugh. Um,
I feel
so
like
anyway, I feel
with
like we're in a
women,
spiral here. Hmm.
no, but I was gonna say that again, this doesn't have a lot to do with alcoholism, but
Hmm.
not that you're an alcoholic. I'm just saying it doesn't have
Doesn't
to do
matter.
with, but it's hitting home for me in the way of I believe that a lot of women who grow up in any kind of chaotic environment, be it whether it's with alcoholism or drug addiction or just emotional abuse, tend to find men where, or women, whatever your relationship is, where you have to prove, where you have to try to get them to love you.
Yeah,
And I find that with a lot of my friends who have had similar upbringings to me that we tend to pick men who we have to prove ourselves to.
that's right. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And
My
it's
husband was the
devastating.
first, my husband, I'm just want to
Just
make
to
this clear,
clarify.
was the first break in that cycle for me though.
Yeah.
Every person leading up to him, and my husband was kind of boring to me at first because he just cared, he was consistent and normal
Right.
and just liked me. And I found that so distasteful.
Right. Yes, absolutely. What's interesting, so I recently got engaged. So just to clarify, I've been divorced for 16 years and I didn't date for eight of the last years. I was like, I am so done. Um, and through a series of events, my friends were like, you have to try again. This is ridiculous. And I did. And I met this incredible man who I'm now engaged to. And he's so consistent and he's so loving and he absolutely adores me. And I'll tell you what, even 8 years ago, certainly 8 years ago, certainly before I got sober, right? I never, ever would have, I would have been like, ew, go away, right? Not attractive, not interesting. Um, and now I like, oh my God, I just like, I relish it. It's so amazing. And I feel the same way about him. But like, oh my God, it's like, it's so incredible. There's no drama, like zero. There's, it's just always consistent and fun, and goofy. And I
Yeah.
feel, and in that, what's really interesting to me is that in that space, and I do think sobriety has a lot to do with this, in this container of safety and love and consistency and steadfastness, I am able to like relax into more of my full being. And I'm able to be more of myself than I've ever been in a relationship and also on by myself. Right? I'm expanding into all of these facets of myself, totally goofy, totally like ridiculous, silly, like in ways and passionate and all of these things that I just didn't really know that I possessed because he just like holds this container of complete unconditional adoration of me and vice versa. And it's fucking wild. It's
That's
crazy, but
amazing.
but you have to, I did have to be ready for it. I definitely had to be sober for it.
So
Definitely had to be sober
when
for
did the
it. So,
drinking pick up?
yes.
So you're in this marriage. How long were you married to this
So
guy?
we were together for 10 years. We were married for 5, which let's also let's look at that. we were together, we were living together. I had to give him an ultimatum for marriage. We started dating at 28. I hit 30, 31, 32. I'm like, are we doing this or not? Did I just waste 5 years? And I had to give him an ultimatum. Like that man did not choose me, nor did he let me go, and nor did I push him away, right? Like lots of responsibility, but like we were together for 5 years and I had to give him an ultimatum. Like that's sad. No one should have to do that. Um, but anyway, I digress. So we were together for 10 years. We have an amazing son. He's now 20. And I should say that he and I are very good friends now. He has done a lot of work on himself. He has come to terms with how abusive he was. He was also chronically unfaithful. Um, and he has come to terms with all of that and, joined other programs to deal with all of that stuff. So, as he has continued to do the work, we have developed a very close friendship. And I deeply respect the level of work that he has done to really change who he is in relationship. And he's great now. But as we were in this marriage, I was suffocating in misery. And it was really when I got divorced, when I finally got out, that is when I started drinking, when I started hanging out with girlfriends on play dates. Well, first of all, I remember going one of our first play dates when Emmett was really little. He was like one, or he was maybe two. And my girlfriend brought over a bottle of wine for the play date. And I was like, wait, you can do that? And she goes, yeah, you have to do that, right? Mommy wine culture right there started. And I was like, oh my God, we drink on play dates. How fun. And that was kind of where it started. And what happened was, uh, as I got divorced, I was doing more and more play dates on my own. And I mean, really, my drinking ramped up in my early years of parenting. And it sickens me to say this. Like it's sick. It makes me want to throw up. But it really was. It was play dates. First, it was we would share one bottle of wine. Then we were like, well, that's not enough. Then we would share two bottles of wine. Then we would go to like three. I mean, and then I would get in the fucking car with my child, by the way, and drive. Um, so really awful, really disgusting. But I think what was happening was I was so excited to be out of my marriage. I was very like, when I got out, I was having parties, I was drinking, I was having fun, I was going out, I was dating, I was having sex. Like I was living my very, very best life and not dealing with any of the emotional fallout and the feelings. I was like, whoo, I'm free, I'm done. Right. And then over time, this like thing starts creeping in. All of the trauma we now understand is trauma. Back then, we weren't talking about it like this. 16 years ago, we were not having the conversations about trauma the way we are now. And all of the trauma was creeping in. I was like, la, 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 drink, 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 right? And so over the course of 10 years, my drinking was increasing. And as I hit perimenopause, uh, I was drinking every single day. Um, and it would either be, sometimes a half a bottle, sometimes a bottle of wine. Then in perimenopause, the wine was really not like agreeing with my system. So it's like, well, I should definitely start drinking, vodka or tequila
Better for you.
or whiskey because yeah, it's what it doesn't interact as poorly with the hormones, and it's cleaner, so it's much better for.
And you don't have to drink as much of it. That's the good news. You could just do shots.
Uh-huh. Right. Yeah. Uh-huh. So then it would be like, two or three whiskeys and they would get like a little bigger, I mean, and I was like, and this was be mostly at home by this point. Emmett was older. We weren't doing as many play dates or whatever. So I was like drinking alone at home every single night, hard liquor every single night.
Now, during this
And,
time, were you seeing this in yourself? Were you like, this is not good. Let me try to stop. Were you doing any kind of trying to moderate?
you know, um, I think there were, no, I was not. I was very much enjoying it.
Okay.
I was very much enjoying it up to a point. Then there came a point where I didn't
Quick
realize,
question.
yeah.
Were there any consequences? Like even doing the play dates, did you ever drive home and go, oh shit, I really shouldn't have been driving.
Oh, all the time. All the time. I would wake up in a, yes. So what would happen is I would wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning, as you do, because of the alcohol and the hormones and the, adrenaline hitting your system. Um, I would wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning and then I would have this like incredible shame of like, holy fuck, I can't believe I drove. I can't believe I drove my child. That like I was drunk. If I had been pulled over, I would have been had it. I definitely would have gotten a DUI. And I would have had my child taken away from me. Like that's where we were at. But I was still like, "Ooh, I shouldn't do that." Right? Like the shame was still like it wasn't deep yet.
Got it.
It was definitely a like, "Ooh, girl, yeah, let's not do that again." And then, cut to next week, we're doing it again, or we should do it at my house, or like, let's have a play date and not drink this time. Like, I'm not going to drink this week, or I'm not going to, or I would do Whole 30. And so, like, I can't drink for a month, but like by day like 14, I'm like, I can have like vodka. Vodka's clean on Whole 30. There's no sugar. That's fine. So, yeah. I mean, just looking back on it, it's like, wow. Sometimes it really does. Like when you start to pick through it, it's not cute. Um,
One of the things about, being in a program, I guess,
hmm hmm
is that you do tend to, because I definitely tended to, while I was drinking, go, it's not that bad. But when I got sober, I only remembered a couple of the big instances where it was that bad. But through doing some of the work of that
Yeah.
program and writing it all down, I was like, it's much harder to fool yourself into going like it wasn't that bad. Because
Yeah. When
because
it's like
for
on
me,
paper,
it was a
yeah.
game of comparing myself. Like, I'm not bad enough to need meetings. I'm not bad enough
Well,
to like make this a forever thing. I'm not. But once I really took a look at my whole history, I was like, oh yeah,
yeah, it was that bad.
it's not great.
Yeah. And so, so I'm glad you said that because one of the things that happened around, it's funny because it was really early on. I think around I hadn't gone off of wine. I was in a relationship with somebody who later got sober. Surprise, surprise. We drank a lot of white wine. He drank like cheap Chardonnay. That's like his drink of choice. And so we drank a lot of that. And I would have these emotional roller coasters. And I would be like, I need to quit drinking. I think maybe I have a problem. I feel like there's something wrong. I feel like I have a problem. And then I would call my alcoholic friends and be like, take me to a meeting. I feel like there's something wrong. And they'd be like, you? No, come on. And so then I'd be like, no, I don't know. And then I would go to an AA meeting and I would sit there and I'd be like, I don't relate to these stories. And so I and my friends would be like, yeah, you're not an alcoholic. So I'd be like, okay, I guess I can keep drinking then.
Right.
Right? Because I don't relate to the stories that I've heard for decades in many meetings in many cities, right? Like I don't relate to um, the alcoholic experience as you see most often in the rooms of AA, right?
We've made it such a black and white
Mm-hmm.
thing. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad that and even a podcast like this has hit at a time where we're much more accepting of all different levels of like if you want to not drink, like it's a valid choice regardless of whether you're fit into this box of what you think alcoholism is.
Exactly.
For me, I call it alcoholism
Yeah.
because it needs to be really black and white for me. I need to not drink. I need to have no wiggle room because, and by the way, I've tried. Like I've tried many times before I got sober this time, but
Yeah.
I just think I was also really caught up in that, like, well, I'm not that, so
Yeah.
I can't be this. It doesn't make sense for me to just never drink again. And I bought into like people, my friends too, being like, you're being too hard on yourself.
Right. Right. Because they don't want you to stop drinking
Right.
because it's fun. Yeah. So, but the alcoholics were like, yeah, you're not an alcoholic. This is ridiculous. Right. And I'd be like, okay. So I guess if I'm not that, then it's fine. Then I don't have to worry and I can just keep drinking. And so like another many years went by. Um, and that relationship, that very alcoholic relationship was very devastating to
White wine
me.
guy.
White wine guy. Very devastating, very, very toxic. The most toxic relationship I've ever had in my life. And it did a number on me, for many, many years. And so I think I went deeper, into my drinking um, and at a certain point, I around 2017, 18, I think. What year are we in now? We're in 2025. Yeah, so it was 2018, I think, that I got sober. I was like, this has to, there's something wrong. And but I'm not an alcoholic, but I can't stand what I'm doing to myself. But I'm never gonna not drink again. That's ridiculous. Like, and then the little voice in my head was like, if you're that concerned about never drinking again, then like maybe that's a problem. You know, because someone who does not have a problem would be like, okay, fine, you know. Um, but I was like, you're gonna tell me I can never drink again? Like, fuck all the way off. Um, and there was a little voice inside my head that was like, maybe that's part of the problem. Um, and I was looking for ways, and like, then it got to the point where every single day, and this probably lasted a year, every single day, I would wake up and say, okay, I'm done. I'm not doing this. I cannot do this anymore. And by 4 o'clock, 3 o'clock, my anxiety levels would be so fucking high that I could barely function. And the only thing that would help would be a drink, whether that was wine or booze. Usually at that point, we were, into the harder stuff just to take the edge off, right? And then the night would happen. Then it would be one, two, three. And then I would, go to bed, pass out, whatever, wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning when the adrenaline would hit my system. And oh, usually throughout the evening, then I'd be miserable, crying, an emotional just basket case. Then I would wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning in a shame spiral. What's wrong with you? Why do you keep doing this? You have to stop. This is crazy. Wake up in the morning. Okay, I'm not going to do it. And then by 3 o'clock, the anxiety was so high that I had to do it. And this went on for a year, and I was desperate. And then I would be out with my friends and they would be like, and I'd be like, no, I don't want to drink. Like, I don't feel right. It's just, then they'd be like, why? What's like, and I was sure that everybody else was really knew that I had a problem or thought I was an alcoholic or whatever. Um, and they were like, no, like you drink like we drink. And I'm like, I drink like you drink when we're together, but I'm also doing that like when we're away for like a girls' weekend, but I'm also doing it every day. Right. And also, I don't feel good. Also, I feel like I'm going crazy. And and then again, went to a couple of AA meetings and I was like, I I don't relate to these story. Like I have not been drinking since I was a child. I have not like this was not something that I felt like I don't know. I was like, I was searching for help. And then I don't remember who recommended Annie Grace's book, This Naked Mind, but I was like, okay, fine. Okay, fine. And I read it and I was like, oh, oh. And have you talked about this on the show, this
No.
book? So she basically breaks it down as to like the science, why like that alcohol is a poison. It's a carcinogen, that it becomes addictive to pretty much everybody over time, that the emotional highs and lows that I was going through is actually the body's hormonal system trying to regulate itself and sometimes overshooting the mark. I thought when I woke up at 3 o'clock in the morning that it was because it was the sugar. I thought it was the sugar from the alcohol. And it turns out it's not. It's that when you've been pumping your body full of a depressant and you go so low, your body shoots it through full of adrenaline and cortisol, stress hormones to like bring it back up, but it overshoots the mark. And then you're hit with a shot of adrenaline at 3 o'clock in the morning. And that's why you wake up and you literally can't go back to sleep because your body's like, right? And that the come down later in the afternoon and the depression is the body coming off of that. And that like the emotional roller coasters that I thought alcohol was fixing, alcohol was actually causing. And she talks a lot about how, a lot of people she doesn't denigrate AA at all, but she does talk about how like some people don't relate to that and then they're told that they don't have a problem like me and then they keep drinking like me when it's like alcohol is the problem. Right? Alcohol can just be the problem without it being you or anything like that. And so there was something so liberating about it. I was like, "Oh, there's a whole other way that I can look at this. Um, that's more scientific, right? That like actually I related to and somehow just kind of gave me license to be like, okay, I surrender. Like, and um, and she says she has this thing called the alcohol experiment, which is like, just try it for 30 days, right? Just try it and see how you feel. But when I quit, it was a very planned out, I am now quitting. I'm done. And I remember I was like, okay, I'm going out with my friends this night. So that'll be my last night. And then starting on Saturday morning, that's it. And I just made a very conscious decision. I was done. And once I did that, like I remember that night, I was like, well, this is it, my last hurrah. And I thought I would and I just didn't want it. I just didn't want it. I think I had 2 sips and I was like, I'm done. And it was kind of as simple as that. Um, I was just done. And I want to say it was like as simple as that. It was easy. It wasn't easy because what ended up happening was um, it was easy for me to not drink. I literally never looked back in terms of like, oh God, I need a drink or I want a drink. I just did not want to drink ever again. I felt I was so fucking over it. And I finally understood that the reason I felt all the ways that I did was because of this thing that was poisoning me. Um, and not just that I couldn't handle it, that like alcohol itself is like, because I think that what I thought up until that point was that alcohol itself is not a problem. It's me in relation to it. And then when I was like, no, it's actually the booze. It's actually this thing that's a poison. Um, it freed me up to be like, I don't ever want to do that again. But then I had to deal with this tidal wave of grief and trauma that I'd been suppressing for 10 years since my divorce. And that's where the shit got real, you know? And where it got, again, not hard to not drink, but really hard to be like present. sober with all this shit.
During this time when leading up to quitting drinking, did your son ever comment on your drinking or
Never,
never?
never. Nope. He would say when he was little, he's like, "Oh, when you have wine, you get louder and you laugh a lot more." But he never commented on it. He never saw it as that like he was like, "Yeah, this is just normal. This like grown-ups drink wine when they get together." And but dad doesn't because he's an
Except for his
alcoholic.
dad, right,
Yeah, but because he's an alcoholic.
right, right,
Right?
right.
So, yeah. I mean, even now I'll ask him. I'm like, "Did you?" And he's like, "No, I didn't think you had a problem at all."
Interesting.
I
So
probably hit it well. So, you know.
so then you get sober, you're having all these feelings, but there was never a time you were like, it'd be so nice to have a glass of wine to just check out.
No, and that's weird. I really didn't. I really did not. I mean, I did not go out anymore. I was like, oh, so much of my life revolves around, going to bar. My social life revolves around alcohol. And a lot of the people that I hung out with, obviously, their lives revolved around alcohol. And so I was like, I can't do any of those things. And maybe I can't see those people. And maybe I need to just like, whoop, like hunker down and, just sort of batten down the hatches for a bit. And I did. But yeah, I never felt like, oof, man, I sure love to drink right now.
And how are your friends, especially your drinking buddy friends? How did they take you not drinking anymore?
They were wonderful. I have heard so many stories of people being such assholes to their friends who quit drinking because it challenges them because they're like, if you have a problem, then, what does that say about me? And they don't want to know about that, right? All of these things. My friends were like, if you feel like shit, then like, okay, I support you. What do we need to do? Um, and one of my, sort of chronic drinking buddies ended up quitting drinking a few months after me. So that was really fun. Um, but, people like our mutual friend Robin, our friend Kate, she was one of my like biggest drinking buddies. And, Robin would come over every once in a while to like, go out with us, but not as often because she doesn't live very, very close to us. But Kate and I, a couple times a week, we were out and we were drinking. And, we have a friendship beyond that. And she was like, I support you. I love you. Whatever you need, I'm here for you. Let's go have dinner. You know?
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah. I have good friends. I never felt like, um, yeah, I didn't lose any friendships when I got sober.
so what about dating? Because that can be really challenging. Dating
Uh, y-
sober sex. Like you had to go into
uh-huh.
try, and also I'm going to combine this with another topic, which I know you are familiar with, but a lot of times when we leave a toxic relationship, like the next one, it's we follow patterns
Oh yeah. Oh
and the
yeah.
next one's also toxic. And so how did you you're breaking your cycle with drinking, you're breaking and by cycle I mean your habitual this is how I deal with stuff. Yeah. And
Yeah.
so how did, you probably had to change a lot of things at the same time.
Yeah, I did. So what's interesting is that I got sober ultimately in what became my 8-year dry spell, right? So I hadn't dated for 8 years when I met my fiance, Ethan. Um, and I was sober for like just over 6. So I did not date. I was like, I think I didn't know I think I went on a few dates. Um, but yeah, I used to be. All my dates were drunk. All of them. Um, I so I went on a few dates and I was much more level-headed and clear about like, oh, I like this person or oh, I don't like this person, right? And I felt much more in control of my environment and myself. But I really didn't want to be, then I just didn't really want to even go down that road anymore. There was something about sort of coming home to myself and taking away stripping myself of all of the barriers that then I was like, I don't really need this. I don't really want this. I, because I think I was dating for years from a place of save me, save me, save me. And I think once I saved myself from drinking, and this sort of checked out life that I was living, I I didn't need anyone to save me anymore. I saved myself at a very core level, and then I went through this process of dealing with the trauma, dealing with the grief. I ended up going away to a trauma recovery program,
Oh, wow.
inpatient. Yeah. Because I was getting hit by everything. My ex-husband was also like repeating patterns in his second marriage. He was cheating, he was doing all the things, and it was like, now I'm sober, now I'm not in the marriage. Now I can see really clearly, oh, actually, all the things that I thought were my fault in our marriage, actually, he's doing them again. And oh, wait, it wasn't me at all. It was him. It was the relationship. It was all of the things I thought it was. And I get hit with this again, full tidal wave of a realization of all of the shit that had happened in my marriage and got really clear because I didn't know he had been cheating on me as much. I really didn't know when I was so um checked out. I didn't realize that that's what was happening. And when I saw him repeating the patterns in his second marriage, I was like, "Oh my God." And it was like I got smacked by all of this stuff and I couldn't function. I was in a freeze state for like a week straight. I could not get out of it. So I went away. Went away to recovery. Um and that was incredibly healing. And so I was doing all of this healing work on myself, this emotional healing work. Once I got the physical stuff out of the way, I really wasn't interested in dating for a long time. And in terms of like repeating toxic patterns, like yes, like I said, like that relationship that I had 3 to 4 years post divorce was white wine guy was the most toxic relationship I'd ever had in my life. He damaged me far more than my husband ever did. And I did not think I was going to recover from that. So, I just had a lot of work to do on myself and to get to a point where if I was going to choose someone, I was going to do it from a place of recovery, from like a healed place, from a place of I want, not I need. And I wanted to choose somebody who was going to bring something to my life and going to enhance it. And in order to do that, I had to create like a really fucking kick-ass life that I loved, that I was interested in bringing someone into, but that I would be totally really fine if I never did.
I love that. I think it's great. So, before we go, tell me how you got into, I mean, you took all this healing and now you help other women
Yeah.
heal
hmm
from their toxic relationships. Like how long
hmm
after you quit drinking did you go, "Oh, I want to give this back to people. I want to help people get out of their marriages or
Yeah.
figure out if they need to."
I had been doing it all along. So
Oh,
I
okay.
started my business in like 2012. So I had been doing it all along. I will tell you that my business did not like start becoming as successful as it is now until I got sober, did the work, and was really living authentically aligned with my message, right? I was actually practicing what I preached. And I don't preach sobriety, but I certainly talk a lot about healing and being present with oneself and having this emotional and mental clarity, which I certainly didn't have when I was drinking. And so my all of the pieces of my life, I can tell you beyond a shadow of a doubt that all of the pieces of my life got better and were became aligned and were like all on the right tracks once I quit drinking. Every piece of it, from relational, my relationship with my mother, with both of my parents, my relationship with my ex-husband, although he had to do his work first too, my relationship with my son. Um, you know, when you become present with yourself and with others, it's can be pretty magical, right?
100%. So tell us where to find you. How do we sign up for coaching? How do we how do we get out of our shitty
Yeah.
marriages?
Yes,
How,
not you,
no,
Steph.
no,
Don't do
no.
that.
Not me. I'm
Um,
not including myself in that.
no, don't. I mean, just if it was, I would say sure, but I know it's not. Yeah, everything about me is really on my website, kateanthony.com. And my podcast is the Divorce Survival Guide podcast, which is on all of the podcast platforms. If you type divorce into the search bar, it'll come up, I think, usually first. And if you're questioning whether you should stay or go, I've got a lot of content on that. And yeah,
And the
I
book is the D word.
the book is the D word, how to making the ultimate decision about your marriage, and it really helps walks you through. Like if you are just trying to decide whether to stay or go, the D word is, I think, sort of the clarifying, hopefully, clarifying Bible for that.
Well, this has been amazing. Thank you so much, Kate Anthony. I hope you guys all go check out her stuff. What a great
Please
talk.
do. Thank you
I'll
so much
see
for
you guys
having
next
me.
week. Bye.
Feeling like life is good, life is